Aston Martin's biggest liability right now is Papa Stroll himself. $27 million. That's what Aston Martin have in theory let slip through their fingers. To be fair, they've gained roughly $17 million from going from 7th to 5th. Why are they acting like the sky is falling, that this was a terrible season? Oh, this was the worst. No, it wasn't. Well, apparently, Lawrence is not happy, according to Mike Krack. Well, I'm a Lawrence, Mike, and I'm not happy either with your attitude. What has gone wrong with Aston Martin this season? I remember making a video about Aston Martin being second in the championship, and now they're 5th. Unless Alpine suddenly gets 1-2s for the rest of the season. Oh no, wait, that wouldn't even work either. They're that far behind. Goes to show how bad Alpine have done. They've got a reason to be disappointed this season. Aston Martin? No. Just no. And we all know that Lance Stroll has underperformed this season. Had he scored a roughly similar amount of points to George Russell, for example, they would still be 4th place and only about 30 or so points behind Ferrari for 3rd. Even the battle for 2nd place in the championship for the teams would still be viable for Aston Martin. They would be somewhat competitive instead of falling behind McLaren and then watching McLaren surge right past. So yeah, you really do have to blame Lance Stroll's lack of performance for the reason why they're not there right now. But even then, 5th place is still good. But I've talked enough about Lance's plight right now. This whole problem with Aston Martin goes deeper than that. The boss at the top being angry about something which you really shouldn't be angry about. Aston Martin has transformed massively during the season. They are now no longer the small, plucky Silverstone team, very agile, very swift, keen to change, quick to adapt, and surprising the big teams with very interesting podiums and consistent performances, sometimes getting P4 in the Constructors without you even expecting it. The Team Silverstone outfit that we have all been familiar with since the days of Jordan is dying. It's now becoming a big, slick, super corporate team with brand spanking new facilities which look really nice on camera, but have really no soul or personality. But they do have the facilities and tricky whiz-bang gadgets to make cars go faster and go vroom vroom louder. They no longer have the history of Jordan and Force India to fall back on by going, hey, we're just a small team, of course we're going to run out of steam. Yeah, that's to be expected. We've just run out of good fortune. Now, they are painting themselves out to be a slick front-runner team, so if they do underperform in future, there's really no excuse anymore. But that is something to be proud of, that they are really progressing quite quickly. 2023, it was amazing! This is something they really should be proud of this season, and yet the boss is still unhappy about it. And all of this is making me think that Aston Martin are not a healthy team right now, despite them scoring over 200 points. What happened to the 5-year plan that Mike Krack mentioned last year, when Vettel suddenly was getting really slick results, Lance too to some extent, and they were really close to outfoxing Alfa Romeo and getting P6 in the Constructors. The only reason they didn't get it was on countback. The team principal said they needed to make a big step forward for 2023. Which they have done. Are 7 podiums and over 200 points in the Constructor standings not good enough for you? Is that not a big enough leap? Well, then what is? Papa Stroll, I would call 2023 for Aston Martin a huge success. Everyone, when they heard that 5-year plan, they go, oh yeah, we've heard about 5-year plans before. We heard about the Renault 5-year plan, Alpine's 100 race plan. Thank God they've stopped talking about that nonsense. To anyone who works at Aston Martin right now, you really deserve all of the plaudits that you've had. You've done wonderful this year. Of course, there are going to be growing pains along the way, and the transition into a big front-running team is going to be a little bit rocky. There will be moments when things fall back a little bit as you're trying to figure yourself out, but things will come along. All of the people they brought in will slowly begin to adopt a workflow which is the most efficient, which works with everybody. You can't just jam a person in there and go,
you, work fast, now! What were you not? Fired! Get out of here!
That's not how things work. Things take time. The McLaren evolution has taken time. Now, they're doing brilliantly again. James Vowles is doing the same thing at Williams. It's going to take time. Have you not learned what happened at Toyota? They just throw money at the problem and expect things to be fixed instantly. That's not how F1 works. 2023 has been remarkable. So why are they not happy? And I think you can guess why. His boy is not the one bringing these results to the table, making his son out to be absolutely incompetent. which is really missing the point. This is meant to be a team, Lawrence. The team has run out of steam. They have gone from being lucky to scoring a P6 every now and again to having scored podiums, second places, almost getting pole at Monaco. The momentum was going to run out. The facilities they have peaked in terms of their efficiency. Next year will hopefully be a lot better, and then you can start to find fault if things don't go the way they plan. Right now, no. This has been a successful year. The major issue I have with this is that this is a huge dampener on morale where it shouldn't be. Everyone should be elated at scoring over 200 points and 7 podiums. Fernando Alonso's attitude has been wonderful. Fernando Alonso wouldn't make a move to Aston Martin if he didn't believe in the plan. He believes in the plan. We have heard far less angry rants from him over the year. He understands where they are. Next year and the year after that, if they don't provide results, then he's got a reason to be annoyed. He's grateful to have found a team which is the right place at the right time. Unlike the wilderness years of McLaren, where he was in the right team at the wrong time. If I were the team boss of Aston Martin right now, I'd be going, hey, yeah, I know this is a little bit sad to see, folks, but we've got to be really proud of the stuff we've managed to accomplish this season. We know that what we have can work. So what we got to do is just take stock with what we had, just take a deep breath, and then reset for next year. Brilliant job, guys. If Papa Stroll decides enough is enough and starts chopping blocks right now and getting rid of people, including Mike Krack, or Dan Fallows, or what have you, then that will be a terminal decision. It will be a bad idea. Look to Mercedes and Red Bull. Their evolution took time. From the days of Brawn GP, the plucky underdogs which really had no money to develop things, into the title winners of 2014, that took 5 years. Mercedes weren't good right out of the gate. Red Bull, they started off as the Jaguar midfield backmarker team. Within 5 years, they became title winners. It takes roughly 4 or 5 seasons for any outfit to have the potential to be champions. Red Bull's 2009 season is like Aston Martin's 2023 season. Nobody saw consistent podiums and wins coming along for that team. This is similar to what we're seeing now. Just surprise success. Aston Martin need not worry, because the one person I think is not worried right now, and you really should look to, is Fernando Alonso himself. Of course, Aston Martin falling off as hard as they have is going to send the media into a frenzy of speculation, claiming that Aston Martin is washed. They are done. That what they did at the start of the year was a complete and utter fluke. But the person that you don't hear much about complaining of any of this is Fernando, and he's one of the kings of complaining. So far, he's really been quite circumspect and very, very reserved. That is very much unlike him, and of course, maturity may play a part in that, but so far, he's been aware of where the team is right now. Everyone found it really odd that in 2022, he went to Aston Martin when they really weren't showing competitive results. He saw something in the data. Why would he give up after 1 year? Unless, of course, there's something big going on, which we'll talk about in a sec. But so far, he's really not shown any signs of being concerned and wanting to leave. The whole situation with Red Bull, him being linked to partnering Max Verstappen next year, getting rid of Checo, well, that's already been disproven, because Fernando Alonso has said that he's not looking to go anywhere, and Christian Horner has already dispelled that, saying if those two were in the same team, it would tear them all apart. He does not want to have an alpha driver alongside Max Verstappen. And Fernando Alonso is one of the most alpha drivers out there. Fernando is also aware that he's had the best career since his days of Ferrari. All of those podiums, being in the top 5 currently of the drivers' standings. But at one time, he looked like a viable rival to the title with Max Verstappen. That's crazy. No one would have thought that a guy in his 40s would have been that competitive. He's blown away all expectations, and he's been really, really happy. He's been re-energized. He now knows that he's still got it. He is fitter than ever, actually. And that he's got a team that will listen to his every word, they won't question him, they adore him, and therefore the atmosphere in his side of the garage is super positive. That's what he needs. So why would he leave after 1 year of all of this good fortune? He's been at most of the teams on the F1 grid. He knows how teams work. And besides, the only way a Red Bull move for Fernando would work is if he got equal machinery and equal status. And with Jos Verstappen there, you'd like that would happen. And you've only got to look back to Fernando's wilderness years from 2015 to 2018. He put up with 4 seasons at McLaren where they were nowhere. No podiums, very lucky to get a P5. That was pretty much their highest result in that time he was there for the second stint. And yeah, of course he got a cheeky fastest lap, but that was a fluke. So why would he do the opposite of that and give up? In his own words, he doesn't have a specific date when he wants to quit. He's got an open-ended value to that, and so there's no rush for Aston to suddenly crack on with things. Alonso's willing to wait, and I think he's also got plenty of silverware to take comfort in. The team has something good to look to, which is a lot more than can be said 12 months ago. Like I said, Aston Martin have in theory lost $30 million of potential prize money, but they have gained at least $17 million approximately from going up from 7th to 5th. That eases the pain, I think. But I don't think Papa Stroll sees that. He doesn't see the positives of what 2022 yielded and what this year yielded. They're no longer as good as they were at the start of the year. That's not good enough. Things must change, or else he will be very, very mad and heads will roll. That is not the attitude to have at the moment, Lawrence. This is an attitude that absolutely stinks. In fact, you don't deserve the spray. They have overextended themselves, trying to harness the lightning that they managed to capture at the beginning of the season. All of their upgrades worked, but now they're still trying to figure out the upgrade path and workflow that will work as a top-tier team. Over the course of their Silverstone era, they were lucky to get upgrades and they were very piecemeal about it. Now, they've got to bring them thick, hard, and fast, like all of the big teams, and they are struggling to adapt. All of the big teams are used to how they can push out upgrades, and they have adapted to the cost cap era, where they have to be a bit more careful with the upgrades. Aston haven't quite got that figured out. Like I said, if 2024 has these same problems, then I would start to get a little bit like, Fernando is not concerned at all, which is why when he said that there's nothing to race for in the last few races of the season, people were mistaking this as, oh, I'm really sad, there's nothing to compete for, oh dear. Well, no, what Fernando meant was that there's nothing really to worry about. Yeah, P4's gone, but P5 is safe. Alpine is not going to catch them. Use this time, this valuable time on track, to learn about their 2024 workflow, which thankfully is going to be pretty much the same as it was this year. Bring parts that they're considering for 2024, because they can do that. Red Bull bought 2024 parts to practice 1, where in theory they were allowed to do that without any issue or having to report to it because they weren't going to race with those parts. Aston Martin, they can go absolute full bore. That don't worry about getting points. If you do get points, that's a bonus. But now they can use valuable on-track time, which they are limited to in Brazil because it's a sprint weekend. They can just learn, figure things out at a patient time. And all of this shouting from Lawrence Stroll saying that I'm not happy, all it's going to do is just make things sad where there shouldn't be. Aston Martin should be thrilled at what they did. And instead now they're looking over their shoulder and worried about what the boss is going to do. Is he going to get so frustrated he's going to pull the plug? Is he going to sell to the Saudis? Is he going to make the Honda deal fall apart because they're so jittery? And believe me, Honda knows about being jittery because they have a history of doing that and pulling out before they realize that they were onto a winner. Aston Martin are in danger of having that happen because the boss will get fed up, he'll sell up, and then everything will fall to pieces because there's so much uncertainty, which is the complete opposite of what we're seeing at McLaren, them emerging out of their dark age, all of which you can find out more of if you watch this video next.